Coming to you from a really different location, a real different location. I want to thank all of you for following me and for listening to what I have to say from time to time on this medium. I'm happy to be able to get on here and just share with you for just a couple of minutes, just a few minutes, some of the things that I have on my mind. And they are many. I will say that they are many. When I first started doing this piece, we were talking about something that was happening in the banking business. And most of you know, if you know me, you know I'm a former banker. I work closely with banks and quite often collaborate with banks to help people get loans. And I'm really happy that some of the banks are really stepping up and doing a better job. But I started off talking about one of the rules that one of the banking regulators was trying to impose that I felt was negative and would not have a good impact for communities of color, that wouldn't have a good impact for low and moderate income people who were trying to get a foothold and come up in life. That was the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the OCC. And they had come up with a rule that would have allowed the major banks in this country to ignore places like Birmingham and be able to get their CRA, that's the Community Reinvestment Act. It's a law that says that banks must serve all of their communities. This new law would have allowed these banks to be able to do CRA type business in about half of their markets and still pass their Community Reinvestment Act examination. And so I am just happy to say that one of the things that has happened since the Biden administration took office was that the leadership at the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency changed. Obviously, new administrations are able to change leadership. Leadership has changed. And with it, that rule, that law, that revision to the Community Reinvestment Act is changing as well. So, that's good. We didn't talk about that as much as we could have because a little thing called COVID-19 sort of dominated the conversation that we had last year. And of course we had the, Black Lives Matter and the murders of George Floyd and others. And so this fight that we have for economic justice, although it has not diminished, and we cannot allow it to diminish in one iota, but that is good news. That's something that happened. But the thing I really wanted to talk about today, I mentioned this a month or so ago, and I had done a piece on our radio program where I said that one of the worst words, the most vile words, the depressing word is murder. And all too often in communities like Birmingham, we have to say that word, quite a bit, unfortunately. Even across the country, there seems to be sort of this other pandemic, and it's a pandemic of hate. And so my good friend Roy Johnson wrote an article, and he quoted Pastor Thomas Beavers of the New Rising Star Baptist Church. Excuse me. And, one of the things that Pastor Beavers said, and I certainly concur, when you look at all of us killing each other, what he wrote was, we don't like each other. So we don't like each other. And yes, as Roy Johnson, a great journalist, picked up on, those words sometimes hurt because we as a people ought to love each other. And ministers and the Word of God says that we should love our neighbors as ourselves. But the fact that we have so many people being murdered by folks that look like them, being murdered by people that they have some relationship with. And I'm not just talking about domestic violence because that's bad in and of itself, but some relationship, some dealing, some beef. And those beefs end up in tragedy. And the sad thing about murders is a lot of folks get affected. The obviously the family of the person who is killed gets affected, but there's also the family of the person who did the deed, because they got to feel some kind of way about it too. And so, as Pastor Beaver said, and he said it was a broad statement, but I got to go with him. He says, if we liked each other, we wouldn't be killing each other. If and he wanted that on the record, and I want to repeat it because I think he's spot on. If we liked each other, then we wouldn't be killing each other. And so we've got more than one pandemic to fight against in our community. We have the COVID-19, and it's resurging with the Delta variant, and we've all got to be aware that it didn't really go anywhere. I hope you got your vaccine. I hope you're not an anti-vaxxer unless you have a really good reason, like a medical reason for doing it. Someone mentioned a religious reason. I'm not sure what religion would tell you not to get a shot, because if you get ready to go to school, you get inoculated. And it doesn't really matter if you're going to go to public school, you're going to get the inoculations that other people who go to public schools get. So I don't know what those are, and I'm not going to criticize people for doing that. But this other pandemic, this pandemic of hate, and when you combine the pandemic of hate with the fact that there are so many guns, then you get what we're getting. You're getting this terrible word, some of the worst letters that you could string together in the English language. You get that word murder. And what we have to do as a community, we have to get up in arms when one of our neighbors murders another one of our neighbors. We have to get up in arms when one of our young people murders another one of our young people. We have to really get up in arms when some innocent child, as has happened so many times that we can think of in recent history, some innocent child is killed because of some indiscriminate person with a gun. You add these hate-filled folks and the opportunity for them to have weapons. And that's when you get that word played out again and again in the streets of our community. And so I just would remind you and encourage you to read the article that appeared on AL.com. It's a great read. It's just about 4 minutes, so you can read it pretty fast. But read that. It was posted yesterday. Read the article. And not only does Pastor Beavers talk about, the shamefulness of these crimes, but he also lists some things that we can do to try to fight this, some things that we can do to create more opportunities, to create more outlets. And I totally concur with what he said. I think you will too. We've got to do better in our communities. I'll talk to you next week. This is Bob Dickerson with In the Black.